I want to show you the best way to bolt down your safe. This is a really secure safe, but if it's able to be moved, it's not very secure. Let me show you how we're going to actually bolt this one down. This particular safe has 4 holes on the bottom, and that's a great way to secure your safe. You typically have 2 ways to install your safe and bolt it down. You're either going to have a concrete floor like we do in this case, and if we've got concrete, we've got 2 different fastener options. These actually were supplied with the safe when we bought it. This is a wedge anchor. So we're going to drill a hole in the concrete, this wedge anchor gets installed, and when we screw this in, this wedge is going to expand and give a really high holdout strength in terms of pulling that out. The other option that I actually prefer is to use a threaded rod like this. This is a rod from Hilti, and then we're going to use a Hilti brand epoxy. This is really easy to use. It's a 2-part epoxy that will get squeezed into the hole, and the holdout strength on that is unbelievable. We're over 20,000 PSI for a 1/2-inch rod like that. If you were on wood subfloor though, another option would be to use a lag screw. You know, if you're in wood though, you really want to make sure that you're not just bolting in this lag into, let's say, your 3/4 inch subfloor, which would have very little pull-out resistance. You'd really want to make sure that this lag was into all of your framing, you know, the entire length of that what, 2.5-inch lag screw, something like that. The other thing you want to do is before you drill these holes, you really need to make sure your safe is both plumb and level. So let me actually show you how we're going to drill the holes with our hammer drill and get this thing secured. Okay, so the first step, if we're going to bolt this down into the concrete, is to get your hammer drill out. We're using the Bosch Bulldog here, and we've got a 5/8 inch hammer drill bit on the end of this Bulldog, which is going to drill down to the concrete. We want to see a minimum of 4.5 inches embedment. If we can get more like 5 or 6, that's going to be even better. Once we get these holes drilled, and with this drill it makes it really easy to drill these holes, we're gonna make sure we use the vacuum on the holes, but the vacuum does not clean out the holes particularly well. We also want to use a little bit of compressed air, and be sure to have your shop vac handy to suck all that up. Then, once we get the rod down into the hole, we're gonna mark the depth on those rods. We're just using a Sharpie marker here. We're gonna mark the depth, and then we're gonna add about 1 inch to that depth, maybe 3/4 of an inch, and we're going to cut these off-site. We don't want to put the threaded rod the full length in there and try and use an angle grinder inside the safe. It's going to damage the safe or the pretty linings on this particular brown safe that we've got. Once we get those cut, we're going to take this Hilti epoxy. This is the 200R epoxy, which is really the latest and the greatest. If you're using 150 epoxy from Hilti, you really need to make sure those holes are cleaned out very, very well. With the 200, they don't need to be cleaned quite as well. This is a newer formulation for those guys. So this 2-part epoxy squeezes out with the Hilti gun. It mixes in the tip. We're going to drop that into the hole, and then that threaded rod's going to drop into the wet epoxy. Then once we put them in, we're going to make sure we use both a regular washer and a lock washer just to make sure things are nice and tight and don't loosen up over time. This safe is not going anywhere for the next couple decades. If you'd like more information, you can visit my blog at mattreisinger.com. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.